Hello, everyone. Hi. Thanks for joining, and a very good afternoon to you. So I'm Alex. I'm from Salesforce, and my role is a senior program architect. And today, I'll delighted to actually show you how easy it is to run a SaaS platform integration into another SaaS CICD tool. All right. So let's get started. Okay, my section will be only 2 slides, and the rest of it is a live demo. Okay, so I'll put it in action and to show you the process of how I migrate a code from one environment to another environment. Right, but before that, I'll give a very quick introduction on, for example, how SaaS can run a DevOps process. Right, so you will wonder how actually you do it. I mean, I just log in and use a SaaS, right? But now I'm actually building something and I ship the code to production, all right? And then after that, I will have a 10 minutes challenge to run through the script, run through the migration in the live demo, okay? Hope that works. Okay, so I guess you are well versed in the DevOps process, right? The concept is the same. It's just that I want to add a little bit more color on how SaaS can actually run the same process over and over again. Okay? Without further ado, every start of the project, you will actually do a planning, right? For example, like your release management, where's your governance, right? If you have multiple projects that's running at the same time, how do you deal with that? Then once you get into the sprint, then that's where you start doing the code, right? And then after the coding is done, here it's very important where actually you do unit testing, because you do not want to actually disrupt the function of another project teams, right? You do a lot of regression testing and ensure that everything is worked fine. And after that, you get into the UAT test, right? Where you get feedback, and then you probably will say, I will categorize new requirements versus like enhancement or maybe a minor fix and here and there, right? And after that, once that is done, you get into a release. And a product, a solution, usually is a long-living thing, right? And once you have version 2, version 3, that's where you start over again, all right? So now, add on to that, what typically happens to a SaaS is that environment strategy is very important, right? Besides the production, you will need to have a few, what we call the sandbox, or the lower environment to build your code, to test your code, and as well as to stress test, staging, and to run UAT tests for the business user. Now here, the sandbox is nothing but an environment which is production grade ready. Wherever that you build inside, that you ship to the production, it will work exactly the same, right? And because of different requirement, the storage space will be different. And as well, we call it the full copy sandbox here. It's essentially you have the full copy of data from production that is residing in your sandbox that you can do testing, right? And after that, this is pretty much quite similar to any other project. It's just maybe the tool is different. Here, we use VS Code, and we install the Salesforce CLI as well, so that we can run commands to actually push and pull the metadata from the org down to your local machines and up to your CSV again and back and forth, right? And then we can integrate with, deal with any other development tools like GitHub as well, you name it. And often than not, sometimes we need some checking on the code itself because of the security vulnerability. Maybe you have your missteps, you forgot about ensure your HTML needs to be encoded, things like that. You probably need to run all these checks, right? Okay, and other than that, it's pretty much all about pipelines. how do we run automations and automatically deploy to different sandboxes, all right? So let's get to the next slide. Basically, it's also very important to actually couple your branching strategy with your environment strategy, because that's actually define your entire DevOps process. So if I run a bit quicker here. So here, basically, main, you have all your metadata from your productions. And then, basically, when the start of a project, you spin off a new dev branch, right? And because you have a bunch of developers, you will run your own feature branch, right? And once your user story is done, you build it, you will next merge request back to the dev branch, right? And you do the merge config, you do approval, everything's fine. Then you run the QA in the sandbox. Now here, there's a pipeline that's running behind the scene, and we'll do the auto deployment. Okay, later you show it in the live demo. And then next, you get into the release branch and go all the way from SIT to production. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on to the next 10 minutes challenge to move ship code from the different sandbox to another sandbox, all right? So I would need to swap over this one right here, okay? And where's my mouse? Okay, come back. I will need to toggle a little bit, okay? So just bear with me. I have my VS Code here as well, all right? And because I don't have the mirror image, I have to look at that and do my mouse here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically I want to create a custom field. Now, SaaS usually come out of the box with all the fields that you have, but because of so many different business case, right? I want to build some custom fields that we ship out to the production. So here, basically, all this what you're looking at is custom fields. This is essentially a case management console, and the case customer service officer will attend to the case and like shift the case from different status to status, and all the information is right here in front of you. Now, the next one is that I'm going to get into my setup. Okay, I will go into the back end. I will create a new field in this particular sandbox. The sandbox is actually right here in the URL, as you can see. This is what we call a dev sandbox, right? And I have another one open up here, which is called QA, all right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to ship my code from a dev sandbox into a QA sandbox, and I create a new field right here. It's called maybe agency, right? And then you see right here, there's none, okay? This is a QA, and I go back to my dev. Now, I'm going to create a new field in my case object, which is the table. Without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to create a new text field, and I'm going to go next, okay? And I type it as agency. And my length is probably like 50 characters length. Okay, everything just make it as default. Go next. Now, we are super important in terms of security-wise, where we want to ensure that who actually the user can see this particular field on the UI itself, right? So we have to check on the visibility. For now, I'll just allow system administrator to do it. Okay, and next, again, because we have different page layouts, like one division looking at one page layout, another division looking at the other one. So where do I want to place this particular field? And for this demo, I'll just do it at the custom case layout, okay? And I click next, save. All right, so I already have my agency custom field here. And now I get into the page layout. I want to change the location of the field. All right, so here, as you can see, I can manipulate my location of this particular field. I just put it right below the department here, okay, and I save it. Okay, that's done. Everything you set up is already in the dev sandbox, And what's next is I'm going to swap over to my VS Code, okay? So here on the left-hand side, what you can see is essentially the project folder of Salesforce. And everything here, including the package XML, I will explain later. The important one is actually the force add, okay, right here. So here contains all the metadata that is coming from your org. We call it a Salesforce environment, right? Now, I want to use the package XML as a means to extract the metadata down to my local machines, right? So here, I will have to change this to agency. As you can see, right, I'm actually extracting a custom field, and it's called agency. Let me save it first, okay? And then because I changed the layout, right, and then I allow admin to view this particular field. So I have 3 components that I need to extract from the environment. Right. Next, I have my CLI installed. I'm going to run a script right here. Sorry, goes down a bit. Okay. Now this is a script that says I'm going to retrieve my metadata based on the above package XML from the dev environment, right? So -u means that it's an alias from the dev, and I click enter. So we're going to wait for a while. Now, as you can see here on your control here, basically, we have downloaded 4 metadata components down to your local machines, right? One is the custom layout, agency field, admin profile, and as well as the package XML that I just modified. So I'm going to stage it. And next, I'm going to push, just hang on. Okay, so I'm going to commit. Now, this one I need to pull up a little bit. Okay, so, still, at the bottom here is actually connected to my remote branch. Okay, so I'm going to do a sync. And now I'm actually pushing my metadata up to my GitLab repo. All right, so let's take a look. So if I refresh here, okay, I need to get to my remote branch of Jira. And there you go, I have pushed the agency. Now, next thing, I'm going to merge requests, right? And once I merge the request, I will run the pipeline automatically and deploy to my QA org. So I'm going to change this to my dev environment. And I have the pipeline that is ready, waiting for it to trigger and create a merge request, right? So let's do it immediately. Okay, now the pipeline is running. Let's take a look. So there are other pipeline that is running because of the security scanning, but the important one is the deploy, the job. So here is where the developer will always say, please make it work, right? Now, often than not, because of, now I'm just doing a shipping or 3 components, but what happens if you have 500 components? That's where sometimes if you don't have a proper governance or documentation, you might miss out some dependency. And when you deploy, the environment will reject you because your dependency doesn't exist in your branch, all right? So, and then you do a few more rounds of patching up your repo, so that everything we have to go. So here you see address it. So unfortunately, there's some error. But if this goes on, proceed. Basically, then you will see the field that is being added into the QA environment. And of course, this kind of the process will be go on and on once you have like you have a daily push and things like that, right? So yeah, I think that's it for my time's up. Thank you very much, and have a great day.